Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in unfair horror movies.
I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at PG Psycho Goreman, a Canadian film from 2020. Psycho Goreman was written and directed by Stephen Kostansky of the film collective Astron 6. His previous films include the Lovecraftian The Void and the very enjoyable Little Shit requel Leprechaun Returns, both of which featured fantastic special effects, which is definitely the strength of Astron 6 production. Psycho Goreman is a continuation of that impressive practical work with a ton of tactile creature violence that's an absolute delight to watch. The film combines horror, science fiction, and fantasy to deliver a loud, explosive feast of creative sights. The titular extraterrestrial terror, Psycho Goreman himself, is one of my favorite recent horror characters. I never get sick of his magma-looking blood vessels, his baritone bellowing, or his insatiable quest to end all life in the universe. The scenes featuring him and his galactic exploits are the highlights of the film, and his super serious facade lends itself to a bunch of hilarious moments.
It was nice meeting you.
It would be nicer if you were dead.
Alright, bye.
Unfortunately, those fantastical scenes are about the only part of Psycho Goreman I like. The film is just as much a comedy as it is anything else, and I'm not a fan of its sense of humor, which I can only describe as random. Most of that comes from the lead human character, Mimi, a pint-sized prepubescent wannabe despot who belittles everyone around her and screams her lines in wacky ways.
Crazy ball!
Now, I want to be clear right away. Actor Nita Josie Hanna is perfect at playing this part. She's doing exactly what she was directed to do and giving it 1,000%, so good on her. But fuck, can I not stand Mimi? I don't find her funny, and I don't find her cute. She's just mean and annoying and drags down the movie, almost as much as her dad, whose defining trait is laziness, but who mostly comes across as that improv friend who could never turn it off. Between those two characters and some self-absorbing jokes, the movie is never sincere enough for me to fully enjoy. It's always commenting on itself and saying, gee, isn't this stuff crazy? Instead of just being a good time and letting its madness speak for itself. As always, though, don't take my word as gospel. Humor is subjective, and a lot of people really love this movie. You might be one of them, so might as well give the thing a shot. Psycho Goreman is a pretty big problem for people on Earth, but not every problem comes in the form of an ancient evil alien. Sometimes your problems can be more internal, and thanks to today's sponsor, BetterHelp, you can start resolving those now. Chelsea and I are huge proponents of mental health upkeep, and as therapeutic as horror movies can be, it also helps to speak to licensed professionals. BetterHelp can match you with a therapist based on your personal needs, and you can begin communicating with them in less than 48 hours. Now, to be clear, this isn't a crisis hotline, but it is a secure way to have online video or phone sessions that are more affordable than traditional offline therapy. Chelsea uses BetterHelp for therapy every week, and she loves it. And we both appreciate that BetterHelp listened to feedback it got a few years ago regarding the language in their terms. Today, their terms are more clearly written to reflect that all therapists are licensed and verified by their team. I would not suggest this service if I didn't personally see how much it's been helping Chelsea. But because she's had such a good experience, I can recommend you visit betterhelp.com/deadmeatjames to get started living a happier life today. That's betterhelp.com/deadmeatjames. Act now and get 10% off your first month. How much bloodshed can one intergalactic antagonist create? Let's find out and get to the kills. The movie begins with a story crawl. It's backstory about Psycho Goreman that we'll learn about later. Right now, let's meet these kids playing motherfucking Crazy Ball.
Crazy ball!
It's nonsense in the mold of Calvin Ball, and while it's funny in close-ups with metal music, I think they used the joke of the awkward objective shot way too early.
Crazy ball! 1. Crazy ball! 2. Crazy ball!
3. Especially since it gets back into the speed metal right away. Psycho Goreman's music was composed by Blitz Berlin, who tailored the movie's tracks to different inspirations and styles. The Crazy Ball music, which makes me feel like I'm playing Killer Queen Black, is meant to evoke early 90s media like Power Rangers and the original TMNT movie. Younger sister Mimi wins the match, meaning older brother Luke has to dig his own dirt bed to be buried in. While digging, he finds a glowing gem that Mimi takes for herself, causing a pink eruption to come from that brown hole. Whew, you never want one of those. The kids are put to bed by their parents Greg and Susan, who hate the shit out of each other. As they sleep, an ancient evil being punches its way out of the ground in their backyard. It makes its way to an old shoe factory, where it comes across a trio of thieves and assimilates their language immediately.
A variation of the Aronian tongue. How primitive.
The being slaps aside the ringleader and pulls the others towards him with space powers. After calling them weak, he rips off both their heads. Holy shit, dude! This son of a bitch is awesome! But this colorful being isn't a one-size-fits-all tormentor.
I don't want to die. Live forever.
And he laughs as he grants the lead thief his wish to remain alive. The next morning, after seeing that something crawled out of their hole, Mimi violently makes Luke agree to go look for whatever it was later. And bring your friend Alistair too, Luke, because Mimi likes that kid in a weird, aggressive
And it's like,
You look good in your little outfit there. Why don't you give us a spin, hunky boy? No thanks.
That darn Mimi. She's so wild and wacky, right? That night, the kids track the claw marks and footprints from their backyard all the way to the old shoe factory. They discover the head thief gagging in stasis and a bunch of body part art, both of which portend the main man of the hour, who shows up promising to kill them both nice and quickly.
No sweet release of death. You'll be spared the sight of Lieutenant being torn to pieces.
Mimi yells back at the being, since she has no respect or fear, and strangely enough, it obeys her when she tells it to let Luke go, all because of that glowing space rock.
The gem of Paraxenite.
Yeah, glowing space rock, gem of Paraxatax, whatever. The gem grants Mimi control over this guy, who's forced to obey her every command. He warns her that he'll kill her as soon as he's able to, a fate that befalls the frozen thief after Luke bumps into him, and he smashes apart. Haha, yeah!
He was my masterpiece.
Fuck yeah, he was, dude. Actually, that was a masterpiece of the film's effects artist, like Mike Hamilton.
and you know what he says when he dies, guys? He says, "Thank you."
Work here, and there's plenty more to come. The angry evil being says he has no name, but goes by a kick-ass moniker.
The Archduke of Nightmares.
That's not good enough for Mimi, though. And after a pretty bad brainstorming sesh, she lands on something titular.
Psycho Goreman!
Qu'est-ce que c'est? This is the film launching into its premise, and it has a solid start.
I'm Mimi.
And I'm Luke.
I wield powers unimaginable to your simple minds.
Psycho Goreman's performance and look are great. It was designed by Steven Kostansky, who did all of the creature designs, in addition to writing, directing, producing, and editing the movie. That is a lot for one person to do. Probably too much. Kostansky designed PG to look like a toy he'd want to buy as a kid. Mission accomplished, bro. He reminds me of Batman, arch nemesis of Stretch Armstrong. On the performance side, PG's fantastic voice acting comes courtesy of Stephen Blahos. But the much more intensive part of this portrayal was done by Matthew Nineveh. He'd arrive on set hours before anyone else in order to be transformed into the character. Though the end result looks amazing, it was tantamount to torture, both physically and psychologically. That's because the suit's prosthetic pieces were glued to his body, preventing him from sweating and cooling himself down. It just cooks you. To cope with the long hours, Nineveh would zone out in between takes, and try not to think of how much longer he'd have to endure this hell.
That suit almost broke me.
Mimi uses her powers to make PG take a seat and leaves him overnight grounded under her control. She's thrilled to have a new plaything, even though Luke's worried about all the murder and world-rendering rhetoric.
Calm down, Luke.